Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Competing Biblically, the Foundation. Nick and Seth, back with you again for our last episode.
Of the Foundation.
Yes. So there will be more.
Yeah.
We are working on more things to give to you guys, some more meat to the bones that we've been doing. But we've walked through the foundation of what does it mean, what are the core principles and theological principles that hold all this together. The foundation of this factory that we've been building of the Competing Biblically framework. And today we're gonna kind of recap and celebrate what we've walked through and share about how this continues to build as we move forward.
Yeah, highlight how it kind of all works together because we talked about winning, we talked about why sport, we talked about God's love and how we live as a response or an overflow of that love. We talked about whole heart, we talked about new mind, strong will, last week great passion, and now how does all that play together and where we're going. So we're going to see two things. We're going to see one, how do those things build on each other? Because as we do, as we engage with a whole heart, a new mind, a strong will, and a great passion, those things build on each other and continue to grow and grow and become stronger and stronger. And then two, so this is the foundation. How does this inform what what the Lord is building on top of it?
Yeah.
So as we were thinking about and praying about and talking about where to go next, so we came up with, the Lord led us to 2 Corinthians 3, verse 18. So it says, "And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image, from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." And before that, he says that the Lord is Spirit, and where the Spirit is, there's freedom. So how do these things play together? So when you look at this pattern of whole heart, new mind, strong will, great passion, that whole heart piece is really just is an entrusting of yourself. It's Proverbs 3, 5 and 6, that trust the Lord with all of your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. So the first step is trusting the Lord with all your heart. And we talk about those three things: God's way, God's power, God's glory. In this Competing Biblically framework, that's what that's where our whole heart is going, to say, God, we believe that this is the way. So this is not the only way, but for us, as we've interacted with this stuff, it is the only way for us. As I look at sport and as I look at the Bible and I look at my life, this integration of life and sport and faith in this way, I've given my whole heart to it. So as you give your whole heart, then you got to figure out, okay, what is God's way? So you have to have a renewed mind. You have to learn. You have to grow. You're being transformed by the renewing of your mind. As your heart is being more invested, your mind is going to be transformed. Your heart is going to be transformed. And then from there, you're convinced, this makes sense. This is definitely the way. As my mind's being renewed and my whole heart is trusting, my will is now saying, there's no other way. It's got to be God's will. It's got to be God's way. It's got to be God's power. It's got to be God's glory. And you get that not my will, but yours be done, like Jesus prayed in the garden. You get that strong will, like David, or like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego standing in the face of Nebuchadnezzar saying, our God will save us. But even if he doesn't, we will not bow down, because it's his will, it's his way. And as your will becomes resolved on the Lord's will, on his way, his power, his glory, God's way, God's power, God's glory, then a passion forms. I mean, just as I'm talking about this, I kind of started here. It's not intentional, but I started down here. And as I talk about this, or anytime that I go to preach the foundation or teach the foundation in one sitting, it's like I kind of start off kind of calm, and by the time I get to the end of it, I'm ready to go nuts. I'm slamming my Bible, and it's exciting that it causes our hearts to overflow with incredible passion. And as my heart overflows with passion, I'm then more convinced and want to entrust even more of my heart, even more of myself
Yes.
to this way, to his word, which is where what we do everything according to his power, to his spirit, abandoning myself and embracing him and my whole heart for his glory, wanting people to know how incredible this God is that I've had the privilege to meet. And all of those things, those four things are all being, so if you picture a foundation with blocks being laid, the mortar that holds all of it together is the love of God. That we love God, that we entrust our heart to God because he first entrusted his son's death on our account. We respond with a new mind because Jesus first loved us.
Yeah.
We have a strong will because his will was the strongest.
Yeah.
We have a great passion because with the joy set before him, he endured the cross. So it's almost like those are individual bricks that are being knit together in love and being held together in love. Love is the mortar that continues to build from one level of glory to the next, from one step of glory to the next. And that's really what we're kind of bringing it full circle back to winning, is we come to this place where what's the win? It's to glorify God by closing the gap between our potential and our performance through the power of the Spirit. So this same idea of one level of glory, one step of glory to the next, we're closing that gap.
Yeah.
Each time we cycle through this, we're closing that gap. 1% closer and 1% closer and 1% closer to this glory that we're passionately pursuing.
Yeah, and we're being transformed
For sure.
into the image of Christ.
Amen.
Like that, when you say closing the gap between potential and performance, again, what is the potential that we're reaching for? It is like, it's not just being the best player, being the best physical player that you can be, although we believe that as you implement, as your faith becomes a part of your sport, because remember, when faith becomes a part of your sport, you're not taking anything away from the way you compete. You're adding another dimension to your play, the way God has designed us to compete and to play. But that potential is not just being the best, basketball player that you can be, not just being the best coach from the world's perspective that you can be, but it's the full integration that our faith will become fully integrated into our sport. So that way, we can get to the point where, like when I play, this has happened at times, not all the time, but I literally feel as I'm playing, competing, running, working out, like I'm worshiping the Lord. It becomes an act of worship, and it's not like, oh, I need to stop playing sports so I can have time to read my Bible and have time with God. Well, no, those two things are no longer compartmentalized, but they're fully integrated. My relationship with the Lord is fully integrated into my sport, whether I'm coaching or playing. And that's what being transformed that image is. And then, Nick, you hit on it as we go through whole heart, new mind, strong will, great passion, and then we're more renewed in our heart. And God continues to transform our mind. That's what that glory to glory is. We see more and more and more. And we see more not just for us. And we come to the point where we realize that the gospel of Jesus Christ is not just for us, that even our participation in sport is not just for us to worship the Lord and to grow closer and to be transformed into his image, but it's for us, for God to use us to help transform others, to be a witness, an ambassador, a representative to others that are around us when we compete. And that's what this full integration is. We talk about potential and performance, where we are now versus where God has created us to be as far as the integration of our faith.
Yeah, and then we see, so this foundation is laid. So where do we go next? So a little preview of where we're going is, as this structure gets formed up, as this framework builds, the foundation isn't just something we lay everything else on top of, and this is where the building illustration falls a little short. It's probably more like a well, where this living water that comes from this relationship and intimacy with the Lord, it's going to get fleshed out vertically as we go up and we go into the pillars and we go into the framing and the finishing out, the verses and the overs. And this was definitely more vertical transformation. But then, as you were talking about, it now flows out. All right, so what does unity and disunity look like? Not just between me and the Lord, but me and my teammates, me and my coaches, the athletic administration, officials that we're playing under their authority, the opponent, fans, people that are forgotten about. How do I actually live in unity and flesh out the biblical principle of unity in the midst of this and fight the temptation of me inwardly wanting, causing disunity because I want what I want when I want it. So that's the incredible part about this is as the foundation will continue to grow, and it's going to overflow into these next couple series of videos that are going to get put out.
Yeah. So we can't wait to continue. This is not the end of all this. This is just the foundation. We've covered a lot more than just the foundation of this competing biblically stuff, and we can't wait to bring more of it to you. I don't think we've mentioned it here on these videos, but if you want more content, if you want to go deeper in the conversation, I encourage you. This is not praising. We're not trying to drive you to ourselves, but this stuff has transformed us, and we want to share it. But the Competing Biblically podcast, just on the foundation, I know we have over 6 hours of podcast content that you can dive into, more scriptures that we dive into that because of the condensed version of these videos we didn't get to dive into here in these videos. But go check that out. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcast, some other providers as well, or you can go to delawarefca.org/podcast and find it there. But that is
Competing Biblically.
Yes, the Competing Biblically podcast.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear some more, a little bit deeper look, and some more just kind of back and forth conversation, wrestling, that's a great place to hear that and to be able to just get some more input, hear some more. And we have something we're building, a Competing Biblically kind of crew that we're building. If you want to be a part of that, you can contact us as well and be a part of the conversation.
Amen.
And be empowered to lead others, not just consume the information. But it's been good to be with you guys. We hope that this has spurred on, has instilled some new thoughts and ideas. We hope you've taken it to heart so that we can all be transformed more into the image of Christ and be representatives and ambassadors of Him as we compete. So until we see you again, we hope to see you again, hope to hear from you. Remember to compete God's way, by God's power, and for God's glory.